The lineup from 1958 was a gritty crime drama with lots of cool area footage from 1950s San Francisco. I love stuff like that in these old films. This was really a very entertaining film, and a thanks to my subscriber Florida Greg for the recommendation. I have a link to his channel in the description below. Well, the film starts, we're in San Francisco, and an American tourist is just leaving a cruise ship, and right away has his bag stolen by a cabbie, who takes off with it. He hits a police officer on the way, and the cop manages to get a shot in and kills the cabbie. And soon investigators show up. There's actor Emile Meyer as Inspector Al Quine, and Warner Anderson as Lieutenant Ben Guthrie. They're investigating what's going on, and they suspect there's something going on with illegal imports. The character Raymond Bailey is the older gentleman, played by Philip Dressler, who has his bag stolen. And the police investigate, and they find it's this Chinese statue that, when opened, reveals a small packet of heroin. Well, they replace it with some powdered milk and return the suitcase to Dressler, kind of curious to track his involvement, and they put him under some surveillance as well. And again, by this point, there's already been copious amounts of area footage, which is just a favorite thing of mine in these old crime films. Well, they bring Dressler down to look at a police lineup, and they bring in, the usual suspects and all, but he has no success. The inspectors then check out the cab driver's apartment, the one that was shot, and they do find some drug paraphernalia and a calendar on the wall that gives them a clue. It has 2 days circled. The robbery occurred on the first day, and the other day is tomorrow's date. Meanwhile, we are introduced to the characters Dancer and Julian, who are two hired killers as they land in San Francisco. Dancer is played by the legendary actor Eli Wallach of a bunch of films, obviously. Magnificent 7, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and so on. And he's this great tough guy here who doesn't really care much for small talk. He's tough with this really eerie edge to him. He's kind of got this Joe Peshi vibe to him. He's really a lot different than I remember him from, say, his more grisly Magnificent 7 character. Here, he's just a straight-up creepy, psychotic killer. Julian is played by actor Robert Keith, and of the two, he's the more calm, level-headed of the killers. Well, they get to their place. Sandy McLain arrives and introduces himself as the new wheelman. He's this young, brash guy. He was played by Richard Jaeckel, who I recently caught in The Devil's Brigade. So it's kind of cool to see him here. Dancer goes to meet with Staples, Robert Bailey, their contact, while Julian waits in the car. So Staples gives him basically a rundown of the arriving passengers of the ship that have these drugs, unaware, when they're statues and so on. Well, next, McLain drives Dancer and Julian to the Seamen's Club, where Warner, who was one of the statue people, he's staying there. Warner was played by William Leslie, who was actually in one of my very first film reviews, the Horse Soldiers, and I probably made no mention of him because my old reviews are really bad. So he has a run-in with him in this steam room, and Dancer talks to him. Now, Warner, he's not completely naive about this. He knows the scheme. He knows that there's drugs with the statue, and he wants to get paid. Well, Dancer isn't having any of that, and he kills him in the steam room with a silencer, and the two assassins leave. And again, the detectives are on their trail, and they investigate this murder that took place, but they're still not onto him just yet. Well, the killers head next to Sanders' mansion for the next pickup. The character narrative of this film is just brilliant, because Dancer's about to go in, but he's stopped by Julian, who basically coaches him on what to do, encouraging him that, they'll be done by 4 o'clock, they'll be done soon. So Julian is like this level-headed father figure, and Dancer's maybe more of the killer who just wants to get the job done. I love seeing the balance between the two. It was really neat. Well, in the mansion, Dancer is met by the houseboy, and he tries to talk him into giving him the employer's flatware, because there's drugs that were hidden in the handles, I think, of the cutlery. The houseboy refuses, and there's a moment of tension as Dancer, he's not relenting on this, and when the houseboy runs, Dancer guns him down on the staircase and just leaves with the flatware. Well, again, the investigators show up, they continue the pursuit, but Dancer and Julian go on to their last target, a young woman who acquired a doll on her trip. So Mary LaRoche plays Dorothy, and it's interesting, I think it was in my last review I mentioned seeing actress Phyllis Kirk in an old episode of Twilight Zone. A World of His Own was the name of the episode, and Mary LaRoche was in that one as well. Interesting coincidence, I guess. Well, Dancer pursues Dorothy at this aquarium, and he's really eerie here because he's both flirtatious and creepy. And Dorothy seems to be on edge around him, understandably so, but she seems to warm up to him and agrees to let him drive her and her daughter back home. No, bad idea, Dorothy. Well, back at their place, the daughter Cindy shows Julian the doll that they got from China. But, after Dancer gets his hands on it and just basically mangles this doll, tears it apart, much to little Cindy's horror, they discover there's no drugs. And Dorothy walks in, sees this, realizes these two guys are bad news, and at this point, Dancer frightens the girl into admitting what had happened, is that she found the packet of heroin, thought it was powder, and put it on the doll's face. Oh boy. Poor kid. And the entire scene is very uncomfortable. And Dancer is about to basically kill both the mother and daughter, but Julian plays it cool. Warns him that they need the mother as a cover for their story about the missing drugs when they go to the boss. So they leave with the two of them as hostages. They travel to Sutro's Bath and Museum to meet with an employer to explain. This place is absolutely fascinating. More on this in just a minute, but it's not just because of the indoor ice skating and the old-fashioned penny arcade games and so on, because, I don't know, it's just the fact that places like this don't exist anymore. So the camera pans and follows Dancer through the building, and he meets with the man, this nameless employer played by Vaughn Taylor. And wow, what a tense confrontation between the two. This is brilliant stuff. I'm not going to say anymore. We're near the end of the film, but it is a very anxious meeting between the two. And you got to listen as the man basically says nothing to him, except he gets up to 2 words for Dancer. And his expression on his face and everything. There's also a subsequent chase scene that concludes the film. This is just crime noir awesomeness. Really love this film. Some quick closing thoughts. This was a crime film that was just visually a treat to watch. Credit to director Don Siegel for some beautiful filmmaking here, with so many of the scenes that were they're visually just so enjoyable to watch. The scenery of San Francisco back then, it just looks so good. I researched him a little bit. His directing career spanned 4 decades and included a lot of interesting films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, as well as a number of Clint Eastwood films like Escape from Alcatraz and Dirty Harry. And he even served in a way as a mentor to Clint Eastwood. And Eastwood even dedicated his film Unforgiven from 1992 to him. It was interesting to read that he started with Warner Brothers in the studio's montage department. And one of his most famous montage scenes was the opening sequence in Casablanca from 1942, one of my favorite films ever. That's pretty cool. So that was Don Siegel's introduction, and probably the most recent film I've seen from him was The Shootist from 1976 with John Wayne in his final role. That was a great film. And, I'm going to have to check out more of his works here. Eli Wallach really nailed the role of that creepy, violent killer here, largely because he's able to contain the violent streak beneath that deceptively calm exterior. Like, he can get closer to people, get comfortable with them, talk to them, be chatty and smile, and then kill them. It's very frightening when that explosive rage comes out, particularly the scene with the doll near the end. Great stuff. And director Siegel really makes use of that uncomfortable close-up view of the faces. And likewise, the character Julian, actor Robert Keith, almost has you fooled that he's like the level-head voice of calm through this film. But wow, watch his character near the end of the film and just watch how the character just unravels. It's brilliant. Honestly, the biggest draw of this film was all of the location footage, though. I mean, I gotta be honest, it's jam-packed with amazing footage of San Francisco from an earlier era. Again, thanks Florida Greg for the tip on this one. I was not disappointed. I mentioned the Sutro Museum and all of the footage that you saw inside, and this was really interesting because, I mean, this place has been gone since the 60s. Back in the day, it was a huge attraction with the world's largest indoor swimming pool. I mean, the engineering of this place is just mind-blowing. It included 6 saltwater pools and 1 freshwater pool. They had 7 slides, 30 swinging rings, and 1 springboard. It even included a museum of stuffed animals, art, and historical artifacts. In fact, in the film, you can see some of the historical displays. And an ice skating ring as well. I mean, it looks incredible. And it's really cool to see that in this film because in a way it serves as a monument of the place because it burned down in the 1960s under mysterious circumstances. And now it's just little more than eerie seaside ruins. And if you look around online, there's been quite a lot written about this place. So I'm including a few of the links below in the description. Oh, and while Googling the street view, I noticed, look, a ghost. Or a double exposure, one of the two. Well, as far as San Francisco in general, there's several places that have documented the filming locations. And again, I'll put that in the description because these are really cool. I had fun looking up a few of them, like the mansion that's at 2090 Jackson Street, and it looks much the same today. As of August 2021, this film is on YouTube, amazingly, but expect to see it taken down. So if you get this in time, it's out there. Anyhow, that's the lineup. It is a great crime classic from 1958, and it is worth checking out.